Okay, Terri, welcome to the Mac User Group in Naples.
Thank you. Thank you. Nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
If you want
Really appreciate it.
Yeah, you can go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself and then start the meeting.
Okay, great. Well, I'm Terri Morgan. I am the co-founder of LumaTouch. I worked at many companies. I started editing in 1988 at a post house in Seattle, and then quickly moved into the development side of video editing. And I went to London and worked for Lightworks, which was one of the first companies to edit film on mobile. Not on mobile, but on desktop computers, so non-linear editing. And as my career went on, I got more into the development and design side of video editing, and I've been doing that now for over 30 years, working for Avid and Tektronix and Pinnacle Studio Systems and Fast Multimedia and so on. So finally, I met my co-founder, Chris Damaris, when we were working at Avid, and Avid had asked us to build a mobile editor, which was called Pinnacle Studio. And they gave us a small team and said, do whatever you want, just make it edit video. And so we did that project, and we found that it was so much joy working on developing for mobile. It's just a completely different thing. It's simpler, but more powerful and more fun. So when we left Avid, we both decided to create our own company and do what we've both been doing for 30 years on our own. And that's when we created LumaFusion. So yeah, and so this is our baby. We love it, and so I just want to talk to you about the reasons why you might edit on mobile instead of desktop editing. I have nothing against desktop editing because I've been doing it for years, and I love Final Cut Pro and Premiere and all those systems, but what I found with mobile editing is it's brought some joy back into video editing for me. So I'm going to share a presentation. So I think I'm going to share my screen, and then share screen, and then I'll go here, and I will go into slideshow, play from start. So I want to talk about how mobile is revolutionizing the way we get stories. Well, one benefit to mobile is very obvious. It's mobile. It liberates you from the confines of your edit suite. And when you integrate an activity like mobile into your daily life, like editing into your daily life, you'll find you get better at it because you're doing it more often, because the device is right with you. So editing becomes a friend rather than a challenge to you. So let's see here. Let's see how we switch slides. Okay. So I'm gonna talk about the reasons why you might choose mobile. Then I'm going to demonstrate the app for you, and then I'll answer questions. So, what's so great about mobile editing? First, you can, as I was saying, it's mobile. You're taking it to the places you love to be and editing right at those places. So if you're out on the top of a mountain, or you're at a lakeside or a cafe or wherever you want to be, you can have this small device with you and do your video editing, which brings you closer to the subject that you just shot. So the story is fresh in your mind, and it's just more integrated with your life. Here is a person who, I'm going to move you down here, Andrew Colton, who used to work at he was a former network news correspondent, and he is editing here on an airplane on LumaFusion, and you can see he has his script on the left side and his editing on the right side there, and he's editing a documentary right on a plane as he goes from one place to another. And I'm going to give you a couple other examples of just people out there doing this sort of work. This is a journalist, Scott McKenna, and he is saying that he is editing 4K media straight from the iPad. You can see he's got his DSLR camera there and his microphone, and he's just shot something and he's editing it right where he sits. Probably looks like in an airport. But it brings me to the point that a few years ago, editing on mobile might have meant that you needed to use a lower quality video. But now, I mean, you can't, there's certain types of media you can't use for mobile, like ProRes media doesn't work on an iPad or an iPhone. But 4K MPEG-4 media works perfectly fine, and a lot of our customers are saying that it actually feels smoother to scrub and edit a 4K clip than it does on their desktop systems. So. And this one is Carolyn Scott. She's actually on a bus traveling back from an event. She's a journalist, and she just is mentioning how she got the video done in a fraction of a time because she could do it while she would have been sitting on a bus doing nothing, and instead she was able to get her work done. Another reason to edit mobile is to edit closer to the time that you shoot, and if possible, even on a shoot. So this is an example of a shoot that we went on for Western Digital. We were showing how the Western Digital drive works with LumaFusion. And we had done all the close-up shots of the app and all the stuff. And then, as you see up here in the corner, I started putting the clips together to make sure that they worked. And as it turns out, we had, every time we accessed the menu to get WD, their competitor Narbox was showing up. So our choice was either spend a few more minutes getting those close-up shots to get rid of their competitor, because the video was for Western Digital, or I would have had to go into After Effects later and fix the whole thing, which would have been very difficult, and because the way the finger was moving and the camera moving and stuff. So this saved us a lot of time bringing mobile right to the shoot and putting the things together. Because the thing is, when you're at a shoot, you're thinking of so many different things: the lighting, the script, how things are going to fit together, whether the actor did the right thing, whether the app was doing the right thing. But the minute you put on your editing hat, you see things in a different way. You start examining the screen and every pixel of the screen and saying, is that working? And when you put on that editor's hat, immediately you're going to find things that you didn't find during shooting. So that's why bringing mobile to the shoot and doing a little bit of editing is a great place to start. And then the last reason that I think that mobile brings a lot to editing is that it allows you to experiment more often. So you've got the device there. It encourages you to touch it through the touch interface. It encourages you to play because it's easy to open, it's easy to close, it's easy to drag along with you. And that experimentation is what helps build creative stories. So the more you experiment, the better results you're going to have when you're editing. Nobody can sit down and be a perfect editor. Everybody needs this time to play around with their story and play around with their footage to get to the best possible feeling for that video. And mobile just allows you to do that way more often. So there's been times in my career that I don't edit for a month or two just because I'm busy doing some other job. And when I come back to mobile, to editing, I don't quite have the flow going. I just don't feel I don't feel like I have the mojo for editing. And then after editing for a few days in a row, I start getting into the flow again and things become easier and I feel more creative. And this experimenting often with mobile is one of the benefits. So here's a customer, Philip Bromwell. He's from RTE in Ireland, and he consistently creates these amazing videos for RTE News, and he does it, he shoots on mobile, he edits on mobile, he adds their station graphics on mobile. And this is a story of a girl who is waiting for her refugee status in Ireland from Syria. And amazingly, she taught herself how to play the piano while with no lessons, just being able to have the piano in the center where she was staying. And it's pretty beautiful. So I'll play a little bit of this, maybe not the whole thing, but I'll play a little. Can you hear it? Is it?
I'm looking to learn how to play the piano. Every time I play, I just go to another word. Like when I'm stressed, when I'm happy, when I'm sad, I just go start playing the piano. I learned some songs like by ear, but I'm watching YouTube videos to help me how to for my favorite movies. I didn't understand. How can she do that? Because I didn't hear her before, and she didn't have class for piano.
So I can see that it's not really updating very well there, so I'm going to stop it because I can kind of see on the screen that it's not really keeping up over the internet. But it's just an example of someone who is really taking mobile to heart and editing professionally. And then here's another guy who is doing a documentary. It's not updating, there it is. So he's doing a documentary about the 30 of the places on Earth that will be disappearing, or places we're losing in the next 30 years. And he is traveling around the country with just what he can carry on his back, which is a tripod, LumaFusion on an iPad, and a couple drives. I'm going to just skip over playing his. But his challenges are that he can't carry everything. He doesn't have internet often because he's out in the middle of nowhere. He doesn't have a place to edit that's conducive to having a laptop. So he's, like in this shot here, is on a bed, just editing with the iPad on his stomach. And he generates a lot of media. So the way he's dealing with that out on the road is he's actually shooting on a DSLR camera and taking the SD card and putting it into a NAR box, which is a drive that it creates its own wireless signal. So no matter where he is, he can access the media on the drive from LumaFusion. And then he will shoot some things on a phone as well, and that goes into LumaFusion. And only the media that he actually drags to the timeline will get transferred to his iPad. So it's a huge savings of space on his iPad. And then when he's done, he takes the whole project, he renders it out, and puts it back onto the NAR box for backup, but in case something happens to his iPad. But also then when he gets to a town with internet, he can just upload the finished piece really quickly from the NAR box or from the device. But it's a great workflow that allows him to get the entire project done without any internet, and then just upload when he gets someplace. So. Okay, now I'm gonna go ahead and switch over to, let's see, and show. I'm gonna switch over to our QuickTime player. Let's see. Oh, So, and open LumaFusion here. Okay, I'm going to wait till I see that you've seen it here. So it seems like there's a pretty big delay. Are you seeing and hearing everything there?
Yes.
Yes? Okay. Okay. So this is LumaFusion. As you can see, it has 3 tracks of 4K media, and it can have audio on that media, and it can have 3 more tracks of audio only. And then it has things like, I'll play a little bit of this. I'm not sure if you'll see it there or not, but. So as you see, you can build a pretty complex timeline. There's certain things in LumaFusion that are very much like using Final Cut Pro. One of the things is clip linking. So if I was to go here and, let's see, I'll go here and trim this clip, you can see that the following clips are moving along with my trim. And if I wanted a clip, say that audio effect down here, if I wanted that to stay where it was when I was trimming, I could unlink that. And these little white lines that connect the clips tell me what's linked and unlinked. So now when I trim, this audio clip is going to stay in place. You see it's not moving because I unlinked it. So I could take that anywhere and move it around and link it again, and it would now stay where it would now move with the rest of the clips. So this clip linking allows you to, stay in sync across multiple tracks while you're editing. And we also have this button here, which is the insert and overwrite button. It's the one on the left of the timeline. And when it's yellow, I'm in overwrite mode, and I can now trim a certain clip without moving anything else. So it's another really powerful way of making sure your timeline stays in sync. When I go back to overwrite mode, now I have this blank clip that is there. I'm going to go up here to the thing. And I could take any one of these clips and just drag it over that clip, and it'll say, do I want to replace the clip and keep the timeline duration? I'll say yes in this case, and now I've put a clip into that space. Up here in this area is your library sources. So we've got, you can come from your Photos app, which has everything that would be in your iCloud photos. You can use a NAR box or WD drive. You can import media from a variety of places. I will show you right here. So you can import media from, you can see iCloud Drive, wireless network drives like SMB drives, Dropbox, Box, Google Drive, OneDrive, and iTunes File Share. And those imported clips will show up here under imported. We also have this Storyblocks library that is pretty cool. You can find footage from the Storyblocks library. We offer a fair amount of free clips, so any of them that are marked as free, you can just use for free. We offer free music, free sound effects, and then the rest of the library, if you want to use those clips, then it's a subscription. which we pay Storyblocks, which is why we have to charge for it, because we have to pay a subscription to them. So when you grab a clip, you tap on any clip, you can mark the in and the out point just by dragging these handles. And this little time in between says it's 5 seconds and 15 frames. I can slide that 5 seconds and 15 frames to any part of that clip. And then when I go down to the timeline, I'll just add this section here. This is a Storyblocks clip, so it's going to say, I am not downloaded yet, I'm in the cloud, but as soon as I drop it to the timeline, it starts the downloading process, and it's pretty quick to get that media now onto my timeline. The only thing that will happen with is Storyblocks media that's in the cloud, Narbox media that's on the Narbox, or if you're using the Photos app and you have, say, videos that are stored in the cloud, which you can control in the device's settings, whether or not you want to keep all your original media on your device or you want to download it from the cloud. But if you have it set so that your original media is stored in the cloud, then we allow you to see what's in the cloud and just tap on it and preview it. And when you put that clip down to the timeline, it'll download it real quick for you. Anyway, so we also in this library have titles. So we offer a variety of presets, but any of these presets can be changed. So if I put this preset on the timeline, double tap it, I can go in here, and if I double tap the text, I can type, circles, or this is my, oh, sorry, I'm typing on the wrong keyboard. This is my title. Okay, in here, in the title, you can now change the color, the face, of any of your layers of your title, and the font. So you have a font list that you can choose from. So there's just loads of fonts. You can also import your own font. You can do everything like the shadow, the edge color, and so on. So these titles then can be placed over other things so that you can layer things up. Any clip in LumaFusion can have effects added to it. So I'm going to go into this woman who, I'm going to move it off of this clip for a second so you can see what's under her. Under her is a clip of some yellow paint. So I've layered her on top of the yellow paint. Now I'm going to go into her and go to the frame and fit editor. And here I can do things like crop the edges of her. I can change the corner radius of the crop and the softness of the crop. I could go to the size and position and position her or size her. And then over here on this other tab, color and effects, I can change the way her color works, or I could add effects to her. In this case, I'll just go add the cool color. And then I'm going to go back to the timeline and double tap on the red and yellow paint. And I'm still in the color and effects editor here. So I'm going to say invert this color. Let's see, where's invert? There it is, to make it blue. You can see when I scrub, I can see that she is over that image. And I'm going to go into some other editors and add different effects to that. Like I can add a kaleidoscope, for instance. And all of these effects can be keyframed. Let me turn off kaleidoscope and show you like what I might think was Okay, I'll do this twist just to show you keyframing. I'm going to move this up here on this one and maybe make it bigger. And turn on keyframing, which is this button down in the bottom left. Then I'm going to move to the end position and drag that effect over here and maybe untwist it a bit. So now, as I move across her, that effect is moving. I'm going to keep layering some other effects on here. So let's add a blur to that background clip. We could turn back on kaleidoscope just to see what it would do. It's probably going to make it more into a ball because kaleidoscope does that. Let's see, we could, do a number of effects. We have a variety here. You could make it very strange and do some lithogram or pop art sort of thing to it. So these effects can be layered and layered. And over on the right here, you can either turn them off and on or delete them. You can set the amount of each effect. And in a lot of cases, you can come right in and touch the blue ball to move it, or the green to adjust the parameter of it. Then, and this is all real time. So another effect we have is green screen keying. We have all these distort effects. You can import a LUT, which is a lookup table for color from some other color editing applications. And that's all real time. So when we get back to the timeline, this is all, it didn't have to render or anything. It's all just going to play as normal. So I'll just play through that. So let's see, it's 9:04. Okay. When you're editing, there's this toolbox on the right that has a number of tools in it. One would be a clone tool. So if I tap on a clip, say on this woman, and clone her, it's made an exact clone of her clip, and I can move that to a different place. Let's just put her over here, just see what that. So now I've layered the three things together. You can unlink and link clips, and you can detach. So if I have a clip with audio, like, I'm going to delete that for the moment. So I have this guy in the woods, and he has some audio on him, and I want to detach his audio so that I can edit it independently from the video clip. I would simply triple tap on this clip or press the detach button, which is over in the tools. And then this is able to be edited independently, so I can lengthen that and make sort of an L cut. Oh my goodness, sorry about that.
Sure, fine.
So also you can save any effects that you do as presets and then access them here from the timeline toolbox. So if you had, I've got a number of effects I've saved, like a wave out effect, a wave in, and so on. So I've named these, and I could simply apply, I'm not sure which one to apply here, but say let's go to this guy in the woods and just apply something here so you can see what it does. So this is done sort of a stretch effect on this guy. Not that we would want this in that case, but you can see that it's, once you save an effect preset, you can just apply it here from the timeline. And you can also copy and paste effects. So if I wanted to put that effect onto another one, I would go clip copy and then go to, say, another effect, another clip like this turtle, and say paste, and now the turtle has those same effects that the guy in the woods has. So that's the timeline tools. The only other ones on here are the mixer, which has, you can do per track mixing. So you would raise and lower the level of each audio track. And there's this green area right in here, a bright green area. That's where you want your voice levels to hit in. So anything that's showing up in this orange or red has potential to distort after export if it's re-encoded or sort of things like that. So you'd want to stay in this bright green area for voices and you know, your loudest sounds. And so when you play, you can see the levels moving around. You would not want them up here, for instance. You want to make sure they're right in that area. If you also want to just adjust levels per clip, you double tap on the audio clip and you'll get into this audio editor. And in here you have, again, keyframes. So in this case I think this is the dog barking. And I've got it going from -10 down to -90 in over time. If I wanted to raise it right here, I would just park with keyframing on. I just park the playhead and raise the level, and you can see that is raising that, making a keyframe at that point. You can also do that live by being in play and just raising the levels there as it's in play, and it'll add the keyframes. And then you can go in and adjust any of these keyframes. So let's see what else. When you create a new project, let's go backwards a little bit here. There's a button. It's right in the current version. You have to tap on the preview, and coming up, we're just going to be moving it out to the side. But you have to tap on the preview to see that you have this set of buttons up here. The first one is a way to create or access your projects. So when you create a project, you want to choose some things about it. You want to name it, obviously, but you'd also want to set the frame rate. So we can do anything from 18 frames per second up to 60 frames per second. And as you know, around here we do 29.97, 30, or 59.94, or 60 is the normal ones. And then you can choose any aspect ratio. So you could choose anything from these ultra Panavision widescreen things to one-to-one vertical 9:16 or 16:9, which is the standard normal one. And then you just create your project and you can get started. So then you would go into your media and say, I'll just take this dog and put him on there, take the green screen of the other dog, and then I would be off and editing. So I could just say, I want to select this guy, and for key color, I want to select the green. And I would work on adjusting this, go over here to the frame and fit editor, and move this guy over. So you see it's pretty quick and easy to do fun compositing things and get started on an edit. And because there's no rendering, you could move this guy in, and it's not going to take extra time to do that. When you're done with your project, the next button over is the export button. And there's a number of things you can export to. You can export to a movie, which is just the rendered file. And if you did that, you can choose the destination of where you're going, all the same places you can import from, plus Vimeo, YouTube. If you export to Facebook, you need to go to the Facebook app, which is other app airdrop down here. But say we were just going to the Photos app, which is on the device. You can select your resolution from 480 all the way up to 4K. you can change your frame rate at this point. It won't matter as long as you pick one that is most compatible with your source media, because we're going to be looking at your source media frame rate and saying, okay, it was a 60 frames per second clip and you're choosing a 30 frames per second timeline, so we'll do the calculations and just use the right frames for that. And then you can set your video quality up to 150 megabits per second, your codec, and so on. You can do 360 metadata inject if you have 360 media and you create a 2-to-1 project. Here is where you would say what type of 360 that you had used. And then you can also export audio only. You can export a project package which takes the media and the numbers for your timeline and packages them together so that you can back it up to another location. You could airdrop it to another iOS device, or you could clean the media off of your device and then bring back that project later to continue editing. So I'm just going to finish up here and then we'll have some questions. You can also we're working on now XML project package, which allows you to start on LumaFusion and export to Final Cut Pro. And so I think that's good for now, and I'll just go ahead and take questions if I can hear you. And I'll just stop.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Do we have any questions? Marilyn?
Yeah, I have a question. You have a lot of options, especially when you're finishing up. Does the program give you some default options in case you're not up on all the possibilities?
Yes, let me share my screen again and show you that. So when you export here, let's go to photos. These stars next to 4K and 5994 and standard, that we've looked at your media, you can mix your media on the timeline, but we've looked at the highest and the lowest and said these options with stars are the most likely and recommended settings. So if you just opened this and said export, you would be fine. We allow you to change it in case you're doing something special, like someone says, oh, I really need a small video to play on a small website or whatever. But just leave it at the start, and that'll be the closest to the bulk of your source media. Any more questions?
Hold on. Okay, Carl.
Is there any training videos on this?
Are there training videos?
Training videos, yes. So if you go into the help and settings and go to help, there are tutorial videos. There's, I think, a 120-page reference guide also that you can access. And that's very comprehensive. So if you have a question, you can just look it up or search through a PDF for that information. But there are lots of tutorial videos. And we're starting a studio next month where we'll be doing regular informational videos for people to watch. We also have, our whole team, which of us there are only 7, but the 7 of us every day answer questions that come to customer support via email. So you email us, and every day we get maybe 40 or 50 mails, and every day those 40 or 50 mails are answered. So you'll get an answer probably the same day. If it's a weekend or a holiday, it might be a day lagging, but we're really on top of support, so we're there to help. Any other questions?
Any other questions?
What is the cost of the app?
Wait a minute.
Okay,
Okay, what, go ahead.
What is the cost of the app?
yeah, that's a good question. So it's $20 and it is a one-time purchase. So half the people we tell that to say, why are you selling such an expensive app? Because people are used to $1.99 apps. And then the other half, the professional editors, are saying, why did you make it so cheap? This thing is just too cheap because it can do 90% of what you need to do for editing. I mean, you can do 90% of the projects and you finish them right on the device for $20 versus spending $250 on Final Cut or a monthly fee to Adobe, which is pretty expensive as well. So yeah, but it's $20 one-time charge. You get everything except if you want the stock media, the stock music library, then that is an additional subscription, but that is completely optional. You don't need that to edit with. It's only if you want that music, and I think that is $9 a month, or for a whole year is something around $60 for a whole year. And in that you get like thousands and thousands of songs and media. So like in the music here, you can say, I want to find ambient music and I want it to have guitar, and then you can also say what mood you want it to be, happy and upbeat. And then it'll sort through some music, and this is all royalty-free music that you can then, use. So that's a separate subscription, but it is optional. So.
George? Is it iPad only?
Go ahead, Wayne.
Is it iPad only?
iPhone and iPad, anything that runs iOS 11 and above.
Hold on a second. That was a question that we talked about on the phone when we did our test, and 50%, I think you said that, particularly in Europe, that people really like to edit on their iPhone. And I think you said, what, about 50? It's about 50-50?
Yeah, partly 50% of our users are, because we can see who's doing what, not who, but what they're doing. And we can see that there's 50% of the users out there doing iPhone videos, and a lot of journalists in Ireland and the UK and Australia are using LumaFusion because they can go out, shoot a news story, edit it, and upload it to their station with the graphics and everything that they need. So yeah. Let's turn off my screen share for a second.
Marilyn?
Any questions?
How much,
Wait a minute. I keep muting and unmuting you. Okay, because when you're speaking, if I don't mute on this end, we have a problem with feedback.
Yes.
how much space or room do you need on your iPad or your iPhone to use this app? I mean, you don't want to be using a 16 or a 32. What's the optimum? What's a minimum that you think is useful?
I mean, depends on your media. So if you're using 4K media, obviously that's going to use up way more space, 4 times more space than HD media. And it depends on the type of project you are likely to create. So if you're going to be creating, 1 to 2 minute videos for your family, or you're going to be doing commercials or something short, and you typically work with a small amount of media, then any size, the 16 would be fine. But for most of us, these days, media is just so ubiquitous. Everybody shoots everything, and you want to have the option to edit with everything that you have. So, I think my iPad, the last one I got, I kind of overdid it and got the terabyte of storage. But you don't need that. I mean, if you had 128 gigabytes or something, that would be great. If you have less, then you're just limited by what you can do, but not whether or not it will work. So.
Yeah, I edit most of everything I do on the computer, and I think the thing that I find really interesting is that a lot of times when I'm out taking video, I wait until I get home to edit it, and I could be doing it while I was there in a lot of cases. When we're doing something else, or at night, or and it really sounds appealing. I personally haven't given the iPad and the iPhone the attention, but I think I will. I think personally I will begin to do that. And one of the reasons, that Terri, I was interested in having Terri talk to us, is because I thought it would be a good idea, and probably not to the majority of our members, but a certain degree of our members are somewhat interested in video editing and what the potential of it is. And here you see a program, for $20 that almost, to me looks everything that that I do on Final Cut Pro, and I think I paid $300 for that program originally, and you can have a program for $20, but you got to play with it. I mean, you really have to get out there and just take the time and play with. It looks complex when she's reviewing it. The things that you can do and the ability that you have to make great video is out there. All you have to do is just take the time and play with it, and some of it will sink in and some of it won't. And over time, more and more will sink in. So,
yeah, one of the projects that I personally have undertaken was to start scanning my family's old photos. So I have now done a couple videos for my, people in my family that have had anniversaries, birthdays, like a 50th birthday and my mom's 75th birthday. And I scanned all her old photos from when she was a child and just put those onto a timeline and put dissolves between, which is easy. And then got some of this music off of story blocks and threw it on, different sections. This is a really great way to start editing, just doing with photos and putting some music to it. And it also adds a lot of value to your family. To sit down with your loved ones and watch your history together is just probably one of the best experiences that my family has had together. On holiday, we were at Disneyland. Watching my mom's life story was the highlight of our trip. So I think you don't have to do something really complex with sound effects and layers and stuff. You can just simply put your story together, start telling your story, whatever that story is, and that's the beauty of editing, is you can make it as easy or as complicated as you want it to be. So.
Carl?
Is there any chance that you have a version for the Mac that'll run on Mac?
Our tool is ready for Mac. The application is built for OS X as well as iOS, but as we're a very small team with 3 developers and the rest of us doing other work, QA and testing and support. So I foresee it will be at least a year before we are able to start working on that. We just have so many features to still put in here.
Marilyn?
Can you tell us about the studio that you're planning and how we could get access to that?
Right. Well, we're planning to have a studio that is all mobile based. So we'll have a desk with an overhead camera, and we'll have a front facing camera. So you'll be able to do tutorials and switch between those 2 views live. And at first, we'll just use it internally to communicate with customers. Like say somebody says, I need to know how to do XYZ, and we can just hop in the studio, make a quick video, and show them. So that's our first use of it. When we get the new office all set up, where that studio is, we'll also be starting some training classes where you can come. It is in Seattle, so you'd have to fly to Seattle, but you could come and take classes directly from us.
Are you going to do any classes remotely?
We talked, and I think the first thing would be to hone our courses in person so we can get real good feedback and make something that really works for people, and then we can think about. I mean, we do have a lot of tutorials online, which are basically remote classes. They're just not live. Yeah.
Are there a lot of YouTube videos out there?
Yeah, there's a lot by us, but by our others as well.
Are there any other questions? Terri, thank you very, very much. Thank you for taking your time, and you're out, where are you exactly?
I'm in Seattle, yeah.
Right, so it's 3 hours difference.
Yeah, so it's 9:30 here, yeah.
Okay, well,
So I'm in my home. I didn't even go into the office yet, so.
all right, well, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Nice talking to you guys.